Hello and welcome from Buenos Aires, Argentina to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where Nate has conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those that have some connection to Latin America. My name is Josefina Dominguez and I am an editor for Latam List, a proud sponsor of the Crossing Borders podcast. Sign up for our weekly updates on latamlist.com to get a summary of the week's biggest headlines in Latin American tech news. Nate's guest today is Santiago Pineda, the CEO of Mensajers Urbanos, a leading last-mile logistics platform in Colombia that delivers products across multiple industries and is quickly growing in Mexico. They talk about Santiago's first steps as an 18-year-old entrepreneur, from teaching himself to code to starting an e-commerce website for flowers in Colombia, to fast forward a few years joining Mensajers Urbanos, falling in love with the idea and becoming CEO of the company. They also talk about the stock simulators he created with his brother, their experience at Startup Chile, and achieving their first exit. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Santiago Pineda.
Hey, Santiago, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you for the invitation.
Where are you in the world today?
I'm in Bogota right now in 2 months lockdown.
And tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Well, we are working Mensajers Urbanos like 5 years ago. And Mensajers Urbanos is a platform for last mile logistics. So here in Latam, cities have a huge challenge in infrastructure and also in mobility for last mile, and this makes it very expensive for traditional players or traditional solutions to achieve fast deliveries and also low-cost deliveries. And in Mensajers Urbanos, we are changing this through collaborative networks of a logistic network where we are connecting the largest and diverse network from bikes to warehouses. And in this way, we are delivering faster and cost-efficient deliveries.
What kind of things do you deliver?
We deliver from a letter to all kinds of products of e-commerce, pharmacies. We have even moved chirurgical tools for surgery.
It's interesting. And how do you manage so many different sizes of products? That must be complicated.
Mainly, we focus on small to medium drop sizes. We don't focus in the large drop sizes. But at the end, our vision with my brother has been always to have one solution for multiple industries, not to focus only on a solution per industry, but one solution that could solve most of the industries that have last mile necessity.
So we're going to get more into the business in a little bit here, but I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Colombia, and I'm from Bogota.
And did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or was it something that came up in your business career?
Now, it came like, I believe that in 10th grade in school, and the main reason why I decided to become an entrepreneur was because at the end, my father was working in a consulting company, and I remember a chat that I had with him that was that the company was charging like 10x the salary that he was receiving from the services that he was doing. So I said, I can't do that. I have to receive those 10 times the money.
And what kind of businesses did you start before you started Mensajers Urbanos?
The first one was e-commerce for flowers here in Colombia. As I don't know if you know, but here in Colombia, flowers are one of the main industries and main exportations in Colombia. And at that moment, there was, once I get out of school and my first semester in university, I remember that at that moment the exchange rate was really bad. So for all the guys that were cultivating flowers, it was a bad business to export the flowers. But at the end, these flowers were getting damaged and they didn't sell it. So I made a marketplace where the inner market or some guy with a flower store here in Colombia could buy these flowers from them.
And how old were you when you started that?
I was 18 years old.
What was it like being a 18-year-old entrepreneur?
I remember that when I wanted to do the web page and I start looking for someone to do it, and it was really expensive. Well, it was like, I don't know, 5,000 or $10,000 that at the moment I didn't have. So I decided that it was not going to limit me to start a company. And I remember to going to the library of the university and start learning to code in PHP. And at the end, I did that first version of the website.
And how did that business go?
It went good until the exchange rate started increasing again, and all these flower owners decided to export all these flowers. And at that moment, I decided not to continue.
And how did that feel as a university entrepreneur to be winding down a business?
I believe I was kind of different from the rest, because at the end my focus was to build the company, and what I had in mind since I started university was that I wanted that in the 5 years that I was gonna be in university, I wanted to finish with a huge company that at the end could start once I finished the school.
And what happened next?
When I finished with this company, I had some savings, and at that moment Forex was really common and was starting to get a lot of traction. And I decided to invest all those savings in Forex, and I lose those in 2 weeks, I believe.
Wow. And then after that, did you just go back to being a normal student, or did you go back to starting businesses?
So at that moment, I understand that in Colombia and in most of the countries in Latam, there was a lack of financial education, especially in the stock market. So I decided to start a new company that at that moment was called Gamebull, that was a stock simulator for the Colombian market. We had a really good traction, but I didn't have good partners. So at the end, the company, after 2 years, we decided to close. But after that, I decided to go and try again. And with my brother, we started Starbull, that was also a stock simulator, but for all Latam markets. And there I went to Startup Chile in 2011. And this company was really good. We worked there like 5 years. And after 5 years, one of the biggest banks in Spain decided to buy us a small portion, a small exit, but that was our first exit.
Talk a little bit about the exit process, because exits in Latam are not as frequent as they probably could or should be. So talk a little bit about how that process happened and what lessons you learned from doing it.
It wasn't really a small one, but at the end, what happens was that Starbull was doing really good, and we started opening a new business line focused on not only a stock simulator, but also once you were simulating and you wanted to start investing in real life, you could contact directly to the bank and start doing all the transactions with them and start investing for real. And also we started with having a lot of courses focused on the stock market, and we start having a lot of problems with the Bolsa de Valores here in Colombia, with the stock market owner, and they started increasing the prices of the information for us, and it was a hard battle with them. And the bank told us, guys, we don't want to fight with them, so we can keep the product and start using it as we are doing here in the bank, and we will pay you this amount. And we decided to do it.
Yeah, even small and medium-sized exits are really important for an ecosystem, and it's something that I think kind of medium and large companies in Latin America should be looking at more, but then also founders, when they get opportunities that maybe aren't huge exits, they sort of should be thinking more about taking them. There's a lot of companies that we see that end up kind of in zombie mode rather than exiting and being able to, maybe not for a ton of money, but maybe going on to their next thing, which it seems like you were able to do well. Why do you think, or how do you think about making that exit instead of trying to just, hit your head against the wall to continue to try to fight the banks and the stock market owner?
The main reason that we had with my brother was that we didn't have a robust business model. We have earnings, but they were not as strong as we wanted. And at the end, we said we don't have the market it's an early market. Few guys are interested right now in this. And the best option we have is to sell it and go on and start another thing.
So moving into starting another thing, how did you decide to start Mensajeros Urbanos instead of any other business that you could have done?
Mensajers Urbanos has a really different story, and is that at the end, my brother and I, we are not the original founders. Once we sold the Starbull, I decided to go to do an MBA, and 3 months. I had like 3 months before going to the MBA, and we had a common shareholder in Starbull and Mensajers Urbanos, and this guy told us, guys, Mensajers Urbanos, it's been 1 year and a half in the market. It's a great idea, but the traction is not that good. And probably you can help them to scale and gain traction with the experience that you had acquired. So I told them, okay, great. I have 3 months. I will help them and try to work with them and see what we can do. And on those 3 months, the company got traction. I get in love with the idea. I believe that at that moment, the Mensajers had a huge potential in the market, and I decided to stay. And since then, I have become CEO, and my brother is COO of the company.
I think there's interesting advice or kind of thinking about how it works to come into a company, both from your perspective, but then also from the company's perspective of bringing in new people that end up being the CEO and COO. So talk a little bit about that process, and if you have any advice to either people who are looking at bringing in new people to their business or are thinking about maybe that's the good on-ramp to their kind of startup journey to come into something that's already a little bit off the ground. How do you think about that, and what advice do you have for people there? From
the founder's perspective, I believe that it's a really, really hard decision to make. At the end, the company is your baby, and the company is what you are working a lot, and you have sacrificed a lot to do it. So it's a really difficult decision for a founder to make. But at the end, I believe that the original founders of Mensajeros were able to understand that there was something missing and that they needed a third party to help them. And they were really mature to take this decision. And I believe that's a very important lesson for founders. And also it was for me, that if you start a company and you think that things are not going well and that there's something missing, probably it's important to you to be able to lose your ego and find someone else. And I believe they had that maturity, and that's why it works for them. And it works for me also and my brother when we started in the company, because at the end, they believed in us. They also believed in the decisions that we took. So that's why it works.
So you join the company, you do the 3 months, you come in and continue to start to build things. Talk a little bit about the problem in detail that you're solving, and why logistics and deliveries and last mile delivery is so important in Latin America.
So the main reason is that in the last years, the consumer habits have been changing really fast, and people don't want to wait days to receive their products or services. They want to receive them as fast as possible. If you're talking about food, they don't want to wait 1 hour or an hour and a half to receive the food. They want to receive it in less than 30 minutes. If you're talking about credit cards, you as the client, you don't want to receive your credit card in 7 days. You want to receive it in the same day that you lose it or that you block the card. So those consumer habits of that needs a speed in the deliveries, it's really difficult for traditional players and logistic solutions to achieve this, because at the end, they have a huge capex that is needed to be optimized. And in that way, it's impossible to deliver in a faster way. And that's why having a on-demand service, it's very, very important in the market. And that's why we had a huge traction. And last month, we were able to reach 1 million deliveries in 1 month.
That's a lot of very fast growth. What was the inflection point that took the business from kind of 0 to 1?
I believe there were 2 points of inflection. The first one, Mensajers Urbanos started focused more in a B2B courier service. So for small and medium companies, instead of having an errand guy that was doing errands and and leaving letters in every place. What we did was a platform where you can go to Mensajers Urbanos and ask for a driver to do that errand. And also it was focused for B2C. The first decision that we made was focus only in the B2B market, because at that moment, Rappi was starting and was getting a lot of traction in the B2C market. So we decided to focus in B2B. And the second inflection was that we decided not only to do courier services, but we decided also to start working in deliveries for food, pharmacy, and supermarkets in a B2B basis. Instead of going to Mensajers Urbanos and buying a pizza, what we did was that we connected directly to the app or website or call center of the restaurant, and we only do the logistic part.
And thinking about as the company starts to grow in Colombia, thinking about regionally, what does the market look like, and how did you decide to start looking at other markets?
So we have a vision, a very important one, that is that it doesn't make sense to expand neither to another city if you don't have a network, a huge network. And the only way to build that network is having a lot of demand in that city. And the reason why we believe this is because at the end, your biggest competitive advantage with other competitors is to have that capillarity. So if it's kind of the same way as Uber, that if you have more drivers in the street, when a client requests a car, you have so many cars that the response is going to be really fast, and you are going to be assigned to a driver in less than 5 minutes. We have the same vision, and we have focused a lot in growing the cities that we have. Right now, we are in Colombia in 10 cities. And in 2019, since 2017, we started working with two important brands that has the same owner, that it's a huge group in Mexico. And we are doing all the deliveries for these two brands here in Colombia. We are doing an amazing job. We are delivering their products in less than 29 minutes. And they decided that they wanted to replicate the model in Mexico. And that was the reason why we decided to open a new market, because we saw a huge opportunity. This company owns 70% of the convenience stores in Mexico. So it was a huge opportunity that we needed to take advantage.
That's a smart way of expanding. And one of the ones that many of the successful companies in Latam have done is expanding from their current market to another with one of their biggest clients, because many of the biggest companies in Latam are regional. So it's an interesting strategy and a smart one. Thinking about this business, many people are probably familiar with delivery businesses, maybe food delivery businesses in the US that have had a hard time having positive unit economics and potentially building a sustainable business. And can you talk a little bit about how you thought about balancing growth versus positive unit economics and how you view that in this industry?
I believe that we had some constraints on raising money over the last 5 years, and that obliged us to be really efficient in our expenses and in our cost structure. In the whole history of the 6 years that we have been working in Mensajers Urbanos, we have raised less than $5 million, but we have been very, very efficient in our cost structure. So we have really good unit economics, and this allows us to grow in a really good pace, but maintaining a healthy financial KPIs in the company. Last month, we were able to have less than $20,000 in losses last month.
So having a constraint, you think is potentially a good way to be able to grow in a way that you're not kind of, selling $1 for 50 cents?
Yeah, I believe so. For us, was more something that motivated us to be able to grow without spending a lot of money. Probably for other founders, this is not possible. For us, was a challenge for us, and I believe we made it. And right now, that's one of our competitive advantages, because at the end, for example, right now that we are entering a new market, we are able to have lower prices than the competitors, and we maintain a positive unit economic and a good margin for each delivery.
If you could go back to when you started your first business when you were 18, knowing everything you know today, what advice would you give yourself?
No, I will give me an advice 6 years ago or 5 years ago when I was receiving the first investment in Mensajers Urbanos, and it's that you shouldn't sign a ROFO in your shareholders agreement in an early stage.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it's something that I think a lot of early stage companies don't understand is they get terms that are not really clean for not a lot of money at an early stage, which can hold up rounds and have issues going forward.
Yeah, exactly.
And how about other things that you might have learned in the process? What are your top 2 or 3 lessons learned from your entrepreneurial career that maybe will help other entrepreneurs who are thinking about starting something when they're in university or maybe just after?
I think that one that it's very important is that things change really fast and that you need to be able to change with them, especially if you want to maintain and continue leading the company. And this is something that I learned, especially in Mensajeros, coming from the outside. That was like, if you are not able to grow as a person, and in knowledge, as fast as the company is doing it, you are gonna be behind. And investors are not going to wait until you catch up, and probably they are going to change you, or the company is not going to do well. So I believe that you need to go at the same pace or faster than the company to be able to continue doing things well and continue growing.
What books, blogs, podcasts, or documentaries do you like to recommend to people, whether it's about startups or just life in general?
There's an amazing book that a friend that we have in common, that it's Amir, recommend me like 1 year ago. That was High Growth Handbook. And I believe here they explain, and from different interviews give a really good example of what you need to be focusing in all the stages of the company, especially when you are going through a huge road, like going from 50 employees to 200 employees. So this was a really helpful book. Another one that it's blitzscaling, but I like that book because also teach me that there are many kind of ways to focus growth, not only to focus on blitzscaling, but also to find a scalable company with positive unit economics. And those are, I believe, that are my favorite books.
What's next for Mensajers Urbanos in the next year or two?
As I mentioned, our vision is to connect the largest and diverse logistic network in Latin America through our technology. The way that we see it, or like the symbol that we like to use, is like if you want to build a house with Lego bricks. So if you have 3 bricks, you're going to be unable to build the house. If you have 1,000 bricks, you're going to, of the same size and same shape, you're going to be able to build the house, but not the house that you want. But if you have thousands of bricks of different sizes, of different shapes, you're going to be able to build exactly the house that you need. And technology is the one that should tell you which brick, when to use it, and how to use the brick to build the house. And the next year and the next 2 years of the company is to continue having new resources in the logistic network. Right now, we are opening a lot of urban warehouses and cross-docking points. We are adding not only bikes, motorcycles, or cars to our network, but we are also expanding to trucks from 1 ton to 8 tons. And expanding to Mexico is also probably our biggest step right now.
Well, it's going to be fun to see as you continue to expand across the region and building a business that's growing fast, but also not burning money that's maybe more scarce in Latin America as things change in the market with venture capital. So it's going to be great to see as you guys continue to expand. Thanks for taking the time to do the podcast today.
Thank you, Nathan, for your invitation. It was very fun.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders with our guest Santiago Pineda. And thank you to Angel and Draca for producing this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend and give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's the best way to share what's going on in Latin America's ecosystem.